What's going on today, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. This video was actually requested by, I want to say his name was Brian Halen or something like that. So if you guys want me to talk about anything specific in any of my videos, just put it in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to make a video about it. But Brian wanted to know about the hiring and onboarding process for Loves or Gemini Motor Transport. And so basically you first have to find out if there's a job opening in your area. And so you'll go to jobs.loves.com, find out if there's one in your area. Regardless if there is or isn't, you can start out by starting to create your profile on the website. You'll fill out, your job history and all that. And even if there's not a job currently open, doing that up front will save you some work on the back end once there is an opening in your area. If there is a job opening currently in your area, you'll fill out the entire application, fill out everything. Do not shortcut any questions, fill out your entire job history, your entire tenure, residence history, and driving history if it goes back that far. Because if you leave stuff out, they're going to take that as you not being serious and you not being able to follow the directions. So fill everything out in its entirety. I know it's a pain in the butt. It's a long application, but ultimately it's really not that big of a hurdle to get hired here. Once you have filled out the application, you can always reach out to the recruiter. And even if there's not a job opening, you can also reach out to the recruiter as well and try and follow up with them to see if there is a job opening that's going to be coming up in your area, or if they even have trucks in that area, or whatever the case may be. But once you have reached out to the recruiter and let's say there is a job opening for your area that you're looking to be hired in, if they don't get back to you immediately, they should within the next day or two. And if you applied and they don't ever get back to you, like it's been a week or two and they still haven't gotten back to you, that could mean a couple of things. They've already filled the position, which generally you should get an email saying that, that they've already filled the position. It could mean there is something major that you left out on the application, or that you're not actually qualified for the job. Or even if you are qualified for the job, you have 2 years of driving experience, which is generally what they look for. Obviously, if you have tanker experience, that's even better. That'll separate you from everybody that doesn't have tanker experience. Or even better yet, if you have fuel hauling experience, that'll put you above everybody else that doesn't even have fuel hauling experience. But even if you don't have any of those, and you're still barely meeting the driving experience requirement, the best case scenario that'll put you at the top of the list is if you know somebody and you can get a reference from them. Ideally, you have reached out and you've met people in the area that work for Gemini already that you want to be hired in, because that's how I got hired. That's how most people that I know recently have gotten hired, is they met people who were in their area that worked for Gemini already, and they got a reference from them. Because if you have an internal reference from somebody who already works from the company, they're going to look at that first versus people who don't have a reference, even if they do have fuel hauling experience. So I cannot stress enough, don't be afraid to come up to any of us who are either in the store, or if you see us trying to unload or load, and say, hey, do you have a few minutes for me to ask you some questions about working for Gemini? Ask your questions. After you've asked all your questions that you want to know about the company, ask two things after that. The first being, hey, do you guys have any openings in this area? Or do you think there will be any openings in this area in the next, foreseeable future? Once they've answered that, and the answer is yes, they have an opening, or there might be one coming available, ask them, hey, I really want to work for your company. Is there any way I can get your email or phone number to get a reference from you, because I really want to work for the company? That's basically how I got hired. If you've done that, you're going to put yourself in the best case scenario to be hired because of that internal reference. Moving on from there, once you have filled out the application, and at some point, if you're a strong candidate, you should be at least contacted by the recruiter on a phone interview. It's called the phone screen, of confirming all of your work history, confirming the details that you put in your application, confirming some details about the job, schedule, starting out pay, what they're looking for specifically, because while they have a general specific requirement of 2 years of driving experience, some RMs are more lenient on that and some RMs are not, and they want more specific experience like fuel hauling experience or at least tanker experience. It depends on your area. It depends on the regional manager, but they'll go over all that. And if you're a good fit, they will also ask you some details about working for that specific area. Like for me, my biggest one was, hey, are you okay with working on I-80 in the wintertime? Because it can get really sketchy. And I said, yeah, I'm used to it. So there might be some area specific questions like that. Otherwise, they'll move on. And this is where I made my best case to the recruiter. And I put my best foot forward and I said, hey, I've done my research. I know I want to retire with Gemini Motor Transport. And I know that my job history, and specifically for me, was not super stable. But ultimately, if you give me the chance, I would love to prove that I want to be a long-term asset to the company. Just putting my best foot forward. So she took note of that. And then she forwarded that information, all of what we talked about, to my regional manager. I then had a phone interview with my regional manager. That went super well. He kind of confirmed I was okay with the schedule. He went over some of the same things that the recruiter went over, but he also just asked me a few questions about my specific driving history, why I wanted to work for Gemini, and again, made the same case of I thought it was the best company to work for, and I had done the research, and I wanted to be a long-term asset to the company. After that conversation with my regional manager, he then told the recruiter that he wanted to hire me. And then she sent me an email with the conditional offer of employment, which was, so I was hired pending the background test, which that was some paperwork to fill out in that email. And it's all in that email that she sent. And then there was also the drug screen that I had to do and pass, which, I would hope so. Drugs bad, okay. And then I had to fill out all the paperwork for the background and set up my drug testing at a local facility here in my city. And I had to schedule that myself for the appointment. And then I did all that, did the drug test. And then after, I think it was about 10 days, it finally all cleared. And then I got a call or email, one of the two, from, I think both actually, from the recruiter saying I was good to go, and she was just wanting to know what my start date could be as far as when I could start with Gemini. After that, I started about a few days later. After I'd put in my notice at Pilot, I met up with my trainer. And for me, training was super easy because, they showed me how they do their unloading process, which was slightly different than I was doing at Pilot, but it wasn't really all that different. At the end of the day, fuel hauling is fuel hauling. And again, I was already carded at all of the loading facilities, or I had access to all the loading facilities that they needed me to have access to. So all I had to do from there was just, when we were loading at the different facilities, go up to the facility operator and say, hey, I just need to switch my companies from Pilot to Gemini. And that was pretty easy. Now, if you don't have fuel hauling experience, this is where they'll slow you down. They'll take you step by step, and you'll just, generally speaking, for the first day or two, just watch what the trainer is doing, but everybody trains differently. So that'll depend on your trainer, but you'll start to learn how to load the truck, how to unload the truck, how to get carted at all these different facilities and get access to the facilities that they need you to load at. And at some point, I think I got my uniforms, which they sent me, you know, $1,000 worth of stuff was the itemized sheet that I got, and I didn't have to pay for any of it. It was a ton of different stuff that I got, you know, winter jackets, normal FR shirts, long sleeve shirts, some polos, bunch of hats, beanies. I even got coveralls, some smaller stuff like a flashlight and my ID badge holder, some other stuff that I'm not remembering at the moment that I use on a regular basis. But the whole training process, you have to be, even if you have fuel hauling experience, is a minimum of 10 days in training. If you don't have fuel hauling experience, generally it'll take 3 to 4 weeks. And they don't have a problem extending that training period, you know, another week or two, so long as you're actually picking it up and learning it. It's fuel hauling is not complicated. It's really not. It's just about paying attention, right product, right compartment, right hole in the ground once you're unloading. It's not that complicated, I promise. Fuel hauling is actually pretty easy until you start not paying attention, and then it gets really hard really quick. So the whole training process is just them getting you familiar with what racks you're going to on a regular basis, what stores you're going to on a regular basis, getting you in that routine to where you're developing a specific routine that you stick to every single time. And that starts from, you know, your pre-trip all the way through your post-trip, loading, unloading, anything and everything in between. Once you're done with training, you're on your own. You start your own schedule. The training pay is, at least for me, it was the base pay of whatever your region's base pay is. So for me, it was $34 an hour. And then once I moved to my specific shift, which was a weekend and night shift, then I got my raise up to $36 an hour. And again, that'll depend on where you're hired. I still believe the lowest base pay for Love's or Gemini Motor Transport is $27 an hour. And again, you'll figure that out and agree or disagree, I guess, if you're not okay with whatever pay they're offering you as you go through the hiring process. But if you guys have any other questions, just let me know down below. And again, if you want me to talk about anything specific in a video, also put that down below. And if you disagree with me, put that down below in the comment section. Otherwise, if you guys like this video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one. God bless.